So I had fallen asleep standing up in the middle of a busy intersection in San Francisco during rush hour traffic. I was coming off a 1-week cocaine binge and hadn't slept the entire time. Horns were blowing and cars were swerving to try and miss me. A friend of mine saw me standing in the middle of the street, grabbed me by my shoulders and said, "Hey, this is not you. You're better than this. You need to get some help." I was homeless, and to continue my drinking and drugging habits, I was committing crimes and getting arrested. See, I didn't know how to get help. My definition of help was to cover up my emotions with drink, drug, and sex. That's the only help I knew. Within weeks, I was arrested for the 7th time.
Wasted human potential. That's what Moe was at. But Moe isn't alone. Here in the United States, there are 600,000 who are homeless. 23.5 million are addicted to drugs and alcohol. And on any given day, 2.3 million Americans are locked up, giving this nation the dubious distinction of the highest incarceration rate in the world. Yay. Aren't we proud? Some people need to be locked up, but many who are locked up don't know how to change. Imagine being a kid who gets high in elementary school and no one tells him that it's wrong. How do you figure out life and the problems it throws at you when you're getting high as a kid?
I grew up in East Oakland, California. I was the youngest of 7 children. Family members openly used drugs and alcohol. I had a brother who thought he was a pimp, a brother who was an alcoholic, and a sister who, as a teenager, gave birth to twins addicted to crack. Cousins openly sold and used drugs. I got caught in elementary school selling marijuana joints. I remember being sent home, and when I got home, I wasn't reprimanded by my parents. Nobody cared what I was doing, and there was no consequences. We later moved to Santa Rosa, California, and in high school, I progressed to cocaine and speed. I was playing 2 sports at the time and somehow getting away with it. In fact, we were having some success. We won a couple championships, and I got most valuable player of a couple sports teams. Played in college and was good at it until I was injured, and I had to have surgery. The doctor prescribed pain pills. But long after the pain was gone, I continued taking those pain pills, adding that to the drugs and alcohol. I didn't like the direction my life was going, so I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, thinking that would change me. But I soon found out that I brought me with me. My new job was at the Martin Luther King Center, and I loved working for Coretta Scott King, but my drugs and alcohol, it persisted. I remember sitting in my office and looking out the window, and there was Dr. King's Eternal Flame. And I thought to myself, dude, you got to get it together. You're in a great place, and you're part of history. That lasted for a little while, but not for long. Knowing that I would eventually get caught and fired, I quit to avoid the shame. The next 5 years, it was a free fall, downhill, drugs, alcohol, until finally, standing in the middle of the street, asleep in San Francisco, arrested again.
Okay, as a society, what do we do with Moe Egan? He's been arrested 7 times and he's getting worse. We've sent him to a number of programs and they haven't helped. What do we do? Maybe this time, let's lock him away for a really long time and say after 10 years and $500,000 of taxpayer money later, he gets out. Do we think he'll change? Do we think he'll be better? Statistics show that 67% of the people we let out of prison reoffend within 3 years. What a great return on our investment, right? What do? Moe's recidivism rate had been 100% up to that point. Now, for the really great news, there is a solution for Moe and for the tens of thousands like him. 50 years ago, a model for transformational behavioral change was built, not by doctors or correction officials, but by addicts themselves. Moe was allowed to go to such a place. It's called Delancey Street in San Francisco. At Delancey Street, they don't take any government money. There's no charge to the participants. The money generated that's needed to run the place is generated by the convicts and addicts that go there who run vocational training schools. This is the same model that we've adopted in the school that Moe and I help run in Salt Lake City. It's called the Other Side Academy, and we hope to scale it across the United States. In this model, we don't focus on the crime or the addiction. We are not a drug treatment plan. We are a life skills school that focuses on the underlying behaviors that led to those actions. We teach people the skills that Moe never learned in his East Oakland home. How to live lives of integrity and accountability and love for others. And we do it without social workers, therapists, or counselors. At the Other Side Academy, it's entirely run by former convicts and addicts. Delancey Street and the Other Side Academy are built on a few simple ideas. First one, you have to want to change.
When I got arrested in San Francisco on my last run, the arresting officer was my old college football coach turned cop. And I remember him saying to me, once you start, you'll continue showing up here until you do something about it. And that hit me. I had spurts of being clean and successful in life. And I knew that there was a better way for me. I don't think God intended for me to be homeless, walking the streets, or a dope fiend alcoholic. I heard Delancey Street was 2 years, and it was very difficult. And that sounded like something I needed. So while in jail, facing new charges, I wrote a letter to Delancey Street, and they gave me an interview. In that interview, I was desperate, and I begged and pleaded for them to help me. And by the grace of God, I got accepted.
The second principle of change is what we call act as if. This is really important. It means that even if you don't feel like being decent or honest or caring, you act that way until it becomes you. We practice being a moral person over and over and over until we become that person.
Yeah. So when I first arrived at Delancey Street, one of the leaders said, hey, you know what? We act as if here. He said, you know the kind of person you want to be. You want to have some integrity, you want to be honest, and you want to be truthful. He said, let's face it, you're not that person today. And the only way that you'll become him is if you practice being him for a really long time. One of the things that we say in Delancey Street and at the Other Side Academy, work hard, keep a good attitude, and don't get caught up.
Practicing doing the right thing. That's principle number 2. Principle number 3 is what we call each one, teach one. This means, we like to say, when A helps B, A gets better. In other words, the way you save your life is by saving someone else's.
When I first got to Delancey Street, all I was talking about was the streets, the drugs, the women, and the crimes. It was the only way that I knew how to connect, was by telling old drug addict war stories. And one of the leaders overheard me. And he said, hey, did you come here to change? Or did you come here to be the same loser you came in here as? And that hit me hard. I didn't want to waste my time. I said, yes, I want to change. He said, well, great. Get back in there, find somebody else that's telling those loser stories and tell them to knock it off. And And that's exactly what I did. It was a new and powerful thing to be trusted to help save somebody else's life.
The next principle is peer accountability. When you come to the Other Side Academy, you give your peers the power to hold you accountable for your actions and to be brutally honest with you when you mess up, which we know you'll do, and that's where learning really happens.
Right. So I had gotten in some trouble at Delancey Street. Later on in a meeting that we call games, an opportunity to get feedback from your peers. One of my peers stepped to and said, "Moe, you're a liar, you're a sneak, and you're a cheat." I wasn't having any of that. They weren't talking to me. Must be somebody else. And then another person said the same thing. And then another offered some specific examples. About the fifth person into it, I felt something give. I said, "You know what? You're absolutely right. I'm a liar and I'm a manipulator." And for the first time, it made me sick. Later that night, as I laid down, I thought to myself, man, this is who I become. And that's the person I wanted to change. Games became a game changer for me. It got to where, even though it hurt, I looked forward to going to games so that I can have my destructive flaws brought to me by people who loved and cared enough about me to tell me the truth. I feel sorry for anybody that doesn't have friends like that. Feedback became my best friend.
The next step is immediate consequences for bad behavior.
Once again, I'd gotten in a little trouble. And this time, I'd gotten a haircut, a verbal reprimand by one of the leaders in the community. She gave me some extra chores and some extra dishes. Now, that might sound crazy. A house full of criminals, and the punishment you use is extra dishes and extra chores. But it works. When she gave me that haircut, I felt embarrassed, I felt ashamed, I wanted to split and go get high to deal with my emotions and my difficulties. But I said, you know what? It's time to change, time to do something different. It's only some extra chores, some extra dishes. An opportunity for me to look at what I did wrong.
The last principle is you have to practice doing the right thing for a really, really long time until you become that person.
I had been to other programs, but after 2 weeks or 6 months or whatever the funding ran out for that program, I hadn't changed. Because I practiced being a lying, sneaky, cheating, impulsive person for so long, 2 weeks, 6 months, or whatever, it wasn't going to do it. And so at the Other Side Academy, we don't talk about being good, we practice being good. We don't sit in classrooms. We practice being good working in one of our vocational schools, lawn care, the moving company, catering, or selling delicious funnel cakes out of our food truck. Throughout the course of the day, the real you is going to come out. The liar, the sneaking, cheating, impulsive person. Somebody's going to see it, somebody's going to hear it, and we're all going to call you on it. And then you go back and you try it again and again and again until you get it right. And if at the end of 2 years, you didn't get it right, you can humbly ask to stay longer. It wasn't until my third year in Delancey Street that I felt like I was ready. I had it in my gut. Yes, I'm ready to go be productive. And I stayed an extra year to give back because I loved what I was doing. I graduated in 2012, and I've been clean for 10 years. I got a job, I became a trusted manager in a company, and I bought my own home. In November of last year, I was recruited by the Other Side Academy to be part of staff. When I help another person, I get that feeling I haven't got anywhere else. You can't buy it, you can't drink it, you can't snort it, and you can't smoke it. And that stuck with me. I know what it feels like to help another person and have them get better as a result.
I believe our only hope is to reform the criminal elements of our society and how we treat them, is to adopt a new belief in the richness of human capacity. I believe that all of us have the capacity to undergo transformational change for the better. Today, our jails and prisons and homeless shelters are filled to the brim with people who have hit rock bottom, who don't know how to change. It doesn't have to be that way.
So now we have that opportunity to go up to these people, grab them by the shoulders, just like my buddy did me, and say, hey, this is not you. You're better than this. You need to get some help.
We may have been silent in the past because we didn't know how to help. We don't have to be silent anymore. We have a proven solution. It's worked for Moe. It's worked for tens of thousands others like him. And we believe that it can work for millions more by following these proven steps for transformational behavioral change so that they can live lives of sobriety, integrity, and fulfillment like Moe has done.
Thank you.
Thank you.